So yeah, today I've got a new little toy to play with outside. I went ahead and bought this attachment for the kettle, which allows you to put long skewers on it. And it actually is a little bit of a raised fitting on there, which I'll show you outside something else neat that I found to do with it, which is a second use for it. But in order to really use this new skewer attachment, we got to make some skewers. And the first thing we're going to do is get some marinades ready, because we're going to be doing chicken, beef, and I've got some veggies and mushrooms that I already cut up off camera, and we'll be doing some skewers of those. But let's get our chicken marinade ready first. And we're starting with 2 tablespoons of what's called Peri Peri sauce. This is something I got at Trader Joe's. If you can't get this, you really want to get sort of a hot sauce that you like. This is pretty hot. Now, I like some spice. Some people like a lot of spice. For me, this is pretty hot. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mellow this out a little bit with a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Last ingredient for this is 1/2 teaspoon of a ground dried sage. And I'm just going to mix this up with a fork here. Want to get everything incorporated, get that sage mixed in there. I'm just going to take a tiny little taste here. It's got sweetness, but it's got that kick. Now let's move on to our beef marinade. This one we're going to start with 1/2 cup of soy sauce. To this I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of dried ginger, and because this is pretty salty, we're going to add a tablespoon of turbinado sugar. Now if you can't get turbinado sugar, brown sugar is fine. Same thing, we're going to go ahead and mix this up here. Really want to get that ginger dissolved here. If you've got a couple little pieces of ginger that don't want to dissolve, that's not going to hurt anything. A little taste. Kind of a classic beef marinade. All right, let's go ahead and get our beef out here and our chicken out here, get those cut up into skewer-sized pieces. So for beef, I have Old Reliable, my favorite cut, the tri-tip. Got about a 3-pound USDA choice tri-tip here, and I'm gonna cut it into skewer-sized pieces, and then I'm just gonna put it in a little Ziploc bag here, and we'll pour the marinade in, and then we'll let it kind of marinate for about an hour before we get it on skewers and out to the grill. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start cutting into pieces about this size. This is what I'm looking for, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, something like that. Go and get our pieces in our bag. We'll dump our marinade right in. Mix this up a bit. All right, that's going in the refrigerator, and we're gonna move on to our chicken. So for my chicken today, I'm using chicken thighs. I just really love the dark meat on the chicken. So I'm gonna cut these into, small enough pieces too. They're gonna be smaller a lot of the times than the beef pieces are not gonna be as thick. And that's gonna be fine because I'm gonna put, chicken on one skewer, beef on another. If the chicken finishes first, it can come off. The other thing I like about chicken thighs is they can really tolerate, I don't wanna say overcooking, but they have a wider range before drying out. Chicken breast, you start going past 160, 165, you're in that zone where it might dry out. Chicken thighs to me have a little bit more of a forgiving range because of the fat in them. So I've got the chicken pieces in a Ziploc bag here, and we're just gonna pour this peri peri sauce marinade in here. So these are gonna go in the refrigerator for about an hour with the beef, and then we're gonna go ahead and get those skewers made. But first, let's go outside, look at this new toy I have, this new attachment, so you can see what it is. So this is the new toy that I was mentioning inside. This is the Only Fire Skewer Ring, kebab ring, whatever you want to call it. It adds about 3 to 4 inches of height to the Weber Kettle, and you have 5 long skewers that go with it. Now it just lifts off very easily, sits back down, It's pretty lightweight construction, but it doesn't really need to be heavy for anything like this. And it has slots in here so these skewers stay upright like this, or you can lay them on their side. But my guess is if you get them on the side there, there's gonna be quite a bit of flex if you have a lot of meat on there. Now I bought this on Amazon, and I'll put the link in the video description. It may be available other places, but when I buy something, I'm really hoping that there is another use to it beyond just the intended use. And I did find one use in this, and that's the reason I purchased this. And so let me show you. I'm gonna remove the skewers real quick. If you've ever done, say, beer can chicken or something like that on the Weber Kettle, where you're standing it up, you notice there's not a lot of headroom. You know, when this is off here and you have the dome on, that can get pretty close to the top. And doing, say, a large turkey or something like that, you may not have any room at all. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, you have these holes on the side, but if you just take some foil and crimp it around there, you can seal off those openings and give yourself an extra 3, maybe 4 inches of height in the Weber Kettle with the lid on. Now, obviously, its primary use for skewers is what I'm probably going to use it for mostly, but it is nice to have that secondary use. Then I can just remove the foil and back to skewer setup. So let's fire this up, see how it does, and cook up some skewers. All right, I'm gonna put my veggie skewers to the outside, the meat in the center. And I know people are gonna ask, why didn't you use lump? Well, I had a lot of smothered briquettes left over, decided to use those. Plus, lump burns hotter, and I don't want a super, super hot fire here on this one because I wanna see how this works. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my lid on and let these really start cooking. So we've been going about 4 or 5 minutes here. Let's move our lid off and give everybody a flip. And these grooves make flipping kind of easy. You just flip it over and set it back down into the groove. Oh, I just lost a bell pepper. Piece of a red bell. Chicken's looking good. See, our veggies are getting close. I don't like my veggies burned when you're skewering them, and the mushrooms, I can look at those and see that those are getting really close. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my mushroom skewer off here. Now, I don't wanna overcook these. You can see they're all really wrinkled right now. And with the lid on, the ambient temperature in there is 550 degrees, so cooking pretty quick with the lid on. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this skewer on the side. It is possible to do that on here, but there is more flex, and it can slip into these little grooves easily. If there's one thing I wish this had, was these skewers being just thicker, because I think there'd be more ability to withstand flex, and they would lay better, even if they were a little wider on these gaps without falling into that notch. But overall so far, these are doing good. So far with only losing 1 pepper. Just lost a second pepper. I'm pushing it. But yeah, these are coming off, they're getting really soft. These are doing good. I'm gonna give our beef another little flip here. Chicken's getting some nice color on it. Let's see how that will rest on its edge there. It works, but again, I think if those skewers were a little thicker and a little wider, it would work better. I'm gonna throw my lid on, give these another few minutes, and I think we'll be done. All right, we've been going a few minutes, and I'm gonna take the lid off in a second and we'll check these. But I did a quick test. I didn't film it, but I did a little B-roll, and I'll show you. If you have more skewers, you can actually just lay them across in between the notches. I just threw the peppers and the mushrooms back on as a test real quick, and you can see you could fit a lot more skewers on here than just the 5 if you have more. But let's look and see how we're doing. Those are looking good. Now my tri-tip, I like about 130 degrees, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull one of these off and do a quick temp check. That's at 140 in the center, so it went just a little too far on the tri-tip. That's fine. I'm also going to do a quick temp check on the chicken here. If I set it over here, I might be able to show you. That's 156. Yeah, 156. Got a couple more minutes on the chicken. So I'm going to let the chicken finish up. I'll pull some off with some tri-tip, and we'll have a taste. All right, all our skewers are off, and I've got a plate with some pieces of everything that we cooked, and I'm gonna start with just some peppers, maybe some peppers and onions. Grilling veggies over charcoal, lump, briquettes, wood, anything you want gives such a great result. And now, mushroom. I love the meatiness of those cremini mushrooms with that char on them, it's really good. And now, for some chicken with a little bit of char on it too. It's nice, the heat from that peri peri sauce was mellowed, it's still there, but the maple syrup really does mellow that. And now, tri-tip, my favorite cut to cook. Let's see. I usually don't marinade tri-tip, I usually give it a dry rub, but this is a really good application to use a marinade when you're doing skewers, and man, top notch, came out great. So all in all, I'm pleased with the Only Fire Skewer Attachment. It works. A couple of those suggestions I wish they would change, but I think this is going to be really useful for doing those larger skewers and for that height that I might want when I'm doing beer can chicken or something. So really multiple uses on this. I'm happy.